So if a G36 had a love child with a FAMAS, you might get this, the Springfield Hellion. All right, so something new and pretty cool from Springfield. This is the Hellion. So this is based off of the Croatian battle rifle from HS product, which is known as the VHS-2, which of course you can tell is in the Bullpup configuration. Now, if you don't know what a Bullpup is, a Bullpup allows you to run a full 16-inch barrel in a much shorter platform here because all of the action is taking place behind the fire control unit. So the bolt and carrier, everything is doing its job back here, which allows you to run that full-length barrel in an overall kind of shorter configuration without having to have an SBR. We will talk a little bit more about that design once we get up close to this thing, but we're gonna talk about the performance, go over the range footage, and of course the differences in how the operation of this works between the safety and the magazine releases, because being that it's a completely different design than like a standard AR many of you may be used to, there are some differences that you need to work yourself into because it runs very, very different. And of course, talk about what distance we shot with this, because I want to know your experiences with Night Force, because this NX8 is a sweet, sweet optic that has probably the clearest glass that I've ever seen. So if you've got experience with Night Force, I really want to know that down below in the comments, but let's go ahead and check this thing out right now. All right, time to get into the Hellion. We're going to talk about this thing from the buttstock to the business end over here. Standard PMags for your M4s, all that good stuff. So no need to worry about magazine compatibility there. As far as the main specs like weight, height, all that, I'm gonna leave that over here so you can read that as we just go through the main components of this, break it down and talk about the trigger pulls on it. So starting from the stock here, we will have a spring-loaded stock that has 5 different positions in it. I really like setting 4 on it, seems to be a sweet spot for me. Rubberized on the end, and then it does have QD points on both sides of the rear. Right up here, this is a movable cheek rest. You pull up and back just like that, and you do have an ability to get a little bit of a riser, especially if you're using a magnified kind of LPVO like that. Moving forward, this is your bolt release right here. Very interesting design. So instead of like a bolt release on an AR, this actually pulls back and that releases your bolt. And then this little nub right there is actually for your trigger pack to pull it out during disassembly. Moving forward, you will see you have your ejection port cover on this side, but this is fully ambidextrous. So you actually have an ejection port on the left side as well, and you can swap that over. So if you're a lefty and not a righty, you're not gonna get shells ejecting into your arm or your face. And that's very quickly done by removing the bolt and just changing it around very easily. Manual shows you how to do that. Moving forward, we do have a magazine well that is actually replaceable. So you can pull this out and change the magazine well to accept other types of magazines, depending on where you live or what style of magazine your rifle is meant to take. Then your magazine release is here in the back, much like a kind of an H&K design. Moving forward from there, you have your safety lever, which is a little bit backwards compared to what maybe a lot of us may be used to, as you can see right there. But once you get used to it, pretty easy to work. Very nice, pretty thick design on it, and it is fully ambidextrous as well. Moving forward from there, you will see Bcm Mod 3 Gunfighter Grip here. So this takes standard AR style grips, which is good because a lot of us like the profile of the more straight up and down grips that they have come out with. Pretty standard flat kind of trigger on there, much like a AK, and we'll talk about the trigger more here in a little bit. Moving forward, you can see you do have a nice section of M-LOK up here on a polymer style rail. Still pretty cool. You do have a kind of a tie-off sling attachment right here you can use with clips or anything else you want to use. That is on both sides. And then you do have QD sling attachment up there. You've got your adjustable gas setting right here. You've got two settings. You're going to have regular and suppressed, and they are marked with an N and an S, so you know if you're normal, suppressed. Standard kind of 4-prong bird cage, or standard 4-prong flash hider, not a bird cage. And then if you want to run it suppressed, you just throw on your chosen muzzle device. Now the charging handle on it is ambidextrous as well. You can pull it out from either side and run the charging handle. So very cool there. Again, makes it a fully ambidextrous platform. Coming back up here into that upper receiver, this is going to be your takedown portion to take the entire upper portion off. You do have metal flip-up sights, both rear and front that you can see there, a metal pick rail all the way across the top, and the sights are spring-loaded, just like that, so they lock up on their own. Press the button, push them back down. You can see that I've got the Night Force on there. That optic does not come with this, so very cool, but that you ain't getting that with this thing for free, that is for sure. And then you can see, basically, you're gonna get standard, you know, Springfield logos right there. It's gonna say Hellion right here, so fairly subdued, nothing really crazy, anything like that, except for obviously the colors on that safe and fire function, which is very kind of Europeanish, I guess you could say. It's kind of one of those things you'll notice a lot of European guns have the red and the white. How this trigger looks and feels. So give you a good idea here, very much like an AK, both in the kind of feel, pull, and design. So that is your kind of slop on safe, on fire. There you see you have probably about 10 millimeters till you hit the wall. Very, very light until you hit that wall. Rolls for about 5 millimeters, and then it's gonna break right there. So here's your reset. Right there, hard wall, roll, and a break. Let's go ahead and do some pull tests, give you guys a good idea. I wanna say it's right in that 6.5 pound range from the way it feels out there. And it'll probably get a little bit better with time. So we are actually right at about 7 pounds right there. So we'll do 3 pulls, kind of see if we get the same thing 3 times or close to it. And we will call it a day on the trigger. Okay, so almost dead nuts right there at 7 pounds again. Last one, unless we get something really weird. So right in the same ballpark, just a little bit over 7 pounds right there, you can see. So kind of what it feels like right there. Whether or not it's gonna get better with time, not 100% sure. So let's talk about the performance, how it feels on the range, and of course, the cost. Well, that thing is just interesting. Think about the engineering that takes place in designing that thing to come apart and go together like that. It's kind of cool. It always runs my mind through the paces of how people come up with that stuff. So let's get right into how this thing feels under recoil. So being that it's a bullpup design and a lot of the weight is distributed to the rear, it shoots very soft, but feels very different than like an AR. Almost feels like an AK without that kind of twist to it that you feel from the AK's bolt going back and forth. So very controllable, very soft, not gonna give anybody problems out there, especially with that 5.56 or 223 that you can fire through here. And overall felt very good. Talking about a little bit of the accuracy, because even though it looks really short, you do still have that full 16-inch barrel, like I said. Got that Night Force 1-8 on there. Beautiful glass on that, great optic. Took it out to just a little bit over 300 because that's all I had that day for distance that I could safely shoot at. Even the camera guy got in on some of the action. My good buddy Mike was out there just hammering away, just at 100 yards for him, playing around with it. Just smoking that steel. And then we took it out to a little bit over 300, like I said. Can't give you an exact because I didn't have a rangefinder out there that day. And we were just plucking away. Somebody had left a fire extinguisher buried into the side of the hill, which we later collected and threw out for that person. But hammered away at that thing, and it was one of the smaller ones. So accuracy-wise, it did exactly what I would expect out of a 16-inch barrel. Firing decent ammo. I was shooting mostly PMC, which is okay. So it did an absolutely fine job when it comes to the accuracy. And then of course, up close, you're gonna hit what you're aiming at. Just remember that offset between your optic and your barrel. Since it's a little bit taller than a standard AR, just think about the mechanical difference in the height between the barrel and the optic when you are up at closer distances. When it comes to the rest of the shooting, I just wanted to practice some basic drills to kind of work myself into the differences between the safety, which is operationally different than the AR, and of course, the magazine release back here, and then the bolt release right there. So I just did the basic ready up drills, some transition drills, some reloading drills, and just kind of had some fun with it out there, just working myself into the new rifle to get a feel for what the differences are and kind of just how everything would work. I will say the safety and the trigger got me more than once when I tried to force the safety the wrong direction, or the trigger. I'm just very used to those drop-in triggers for ARs, whereas this is very much a AK style battle trigger. So it caught me off guard a little bit more than once, but once I got used to it, things ran exactly as they should. I had zero issues with functionality, reliability, feeding, accuracy, all of that stuff played in exactly as I would expect, especially out of a 16-inch barrel. And we've reached the part where we talk about the price. What is the Hellion going to cost us? Obviously, without the Night Force optic on there, you're gonna get your flip-up metal sights right there. So the MSRP from Springfield is $19.99, but we all know in store generally you're gonna find it for a lot less than the MSRP, depending on how crazy the market is. The past 2 years have been weird, but in general, in the store, you can find them for quite a bit less than the MSRP. So all of that is gonna be up to you based on what you've seen here, other reviews you're gonna see on this thing coming out, on if it is something you are interested in. For me, this is the first bullpup I've actually ever had to spend a lot of good time with on the range. A couple trips with it, and I've got several hundred rounds through it now, so I've got a good feeling for it overall. I've never actually been able to do more than like a magazine dump out of a bullpup design, so it was a cool experience, and I'm definitely glad that they sent this thing out to me to test out for a little bit. And at the end of the day, it's just a flat out cool design. So I remember seeing things like this when I was very young in video games and things like that. So pretty cool to actually get one to play with in person. So I'm really curious to know, are you guys into the bullpup? Do you have experience with them? And of course, you guys' experience with that Night Force stuff, because that has to be the best glass I have seen in a very long time. So let me know what you think down below. Make sure you guys get subbed up, get belled up, turn those notifications down there to all on. You want to support me, you can use any of those affiliate links. Check out the Patreon if you are interested. And I hope this helps you guys out if you are looking at getting into a bullpup design or something just a little bit different out there for the range. Well, you guys get out there and have some fun on the range. Remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Even if it's a little stubby like this fella. I will see you guys on the next one.